Chapter 9 from John Maxwell's book, 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. So, as a reminder, I use the acronym SOAP, SOAP. So, today we're studying Chapter 9. I'll share my 3 observations from the material. Then you'll share your 3 observations. Your observations can be direct or indirect. Direct meaning that I read the material, I read the section, the paragraph, the sentence, and this is how it spoke to me directly. Or it can be indirect, meaning that as a result of the material that I read, or as a result of the conversation that's taking place, it reminded me of something, and I'm going to share that with the group. Application: ask yourself within the next 24 to 48 hours, how can I apply this? You're trying to convert this from short-term memory to long-term memory. And then passing it forward. I look at it as we have an obligation to develop, grow, share, encourage other people. So this would be an opportunity for you to ask yourself, who else needs to hear this message? Who else do I know of that I can influence and pour into that other person? You're always looking to develop and grow other people, at least have an impact on their life. So this is the law of the ladder. So it says character growth determines the height of your personal growth. And so there's a quote over here that says, achievement to most people is something you do, but to the high achiever, it is something who you are. That resonates with me a lot. And so my first observation is on page 166. And so let me just change my table of contents over here. Thumbnail 166. And so there's the section that I highlighted here. Says, to be a success, think like a success. So he says Jerry, so he's talking about this person, Jerry. Jerry sensed that if he were to be a successful businessman, he needed to learn how to think like a successful business person. With that in mind, he got together 5 or 6 other people, and they committed to meet together once a week for an hour to study the principles in a little book John had given them. For the first time, he was intentional about his personal growth. So I always remind myself that you want to be, do, have, give. So I'm always looking at my future state, my goals, and I look at that. Who's the person that I want to become? Now, I always want to be me. I don't want to be anybody else, but the greatest version of myself. When I look at that person in the future, how does that person think? How does that person behave? What do they drink? What do they drive? How do they dress? How do they handle situations? Because that future person does not react. They always respond. They're always thinking. They're always planning. They're very goal oriented. So that's the be. And so when I'm thinking about how does that person behave, then I start today, not tomorrow, today I start doing those actions, doing almost personifying that person. And so he talks about getting together with 5 or 6 people. That's essentially sounds like a mastermind group. And I think that's something that you want to take away. You should have your own mastermind. Look at the mastermind group as your own personal or professional board of directors. So that's what you want. Success has a companion, and its name is failure. So understand that if you want to be successful, you're going to have to make your mistakes, fail your way to the top, fail your way forward, fail your way to your success. So successful people, they F up a lot, and the F stands for failure. My second observation is on page 170. And so in the U.S., there's a retired General Norman Schwarzkopf. And so the general says that 99% of leadership failures are failures of character. So are 99% of all other failures. So imagine that. He's saying that 90% of all failures are due to character. So then he goes on to elaborate that most people focus too much on competence and too little on character. How often does a person miss a deadline because he or she did not follow through when they should have? How many times do people get lower grades on a test than they could have because they didn't study as much as they could have? How frequently do people fail to grow not because they didn't have time to read helpful books, but because they chose? So they're making a conscious decision to spend their time and money on something else that is less valuable. All those shortcomings are the result of character, not capacity. Character growth determines the height of your personal growth. That is the law of the ladder. So for if you're listening to this or hearing this for the first time, it probably stings. It probably kind of makes you feel uncomfortable. It's somewhat accusatory. But if you allow that information to sink in, you'll realize that there either is a lot of truth or 100% truth to that. And it'll resonate with you in terms of, are you always doing the best that you can? Because you know the truth is you can always do a little bit better. You can always perform better. You can always commit more time to your own personal development, to your own professional development. And so I wrote a couple of things here. Number one, saying that there are no average people. So when you hear people talk about the average person, they're just people who choose to be average. So you're not an average person unless you choose to be average. You can certainly do better, do more, have more, give more if you choose to do that. Then I talk about the 4 C's that I've used for many, many years, decades, in terms of when I hire people. And it's pretty much in this order. So number one, I'm looking for character. Then I'm looking for competency. I'm looking for chemistry, and I'm looking for consistency. So character is a must. You must have character. If you like character and you have the other 3, I'm not going to hire you. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to have the other 3. So all 4 are important, but character is number 1. You want the competency. The person has to be able to perform the job. They have to be able to get along with the other members of the team. So collaboration is important. And then consistency. You want performance that overall is pretty consistent. You don't want a roller coaster ride with an individual who does phenomenally well and then they do very poorly. So you want those 4 C's. At least for me, that's what I use a lot. And then I write down that if you do what is easy, if you're doing what is easy, then your life will be hard. But when you do what is hard, your life will be easy. So you have to discipline yourself to do whatever is necessary. A lot of times when I talk about people who want to grow, who want to be successful, they will say that they'll do whatever is necessary. And really what they mean is they'll do these things except what's required. They really won't do whatever is necessary. They won't do what's required because what's required is not easy. It's difficult. It requires commitment. It requires that you're going to put additional effort. And that's really what differentiates the successful people from the unsuccessful people. At least that is one of the things. So again, just a reminder that you have to think in terms of who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to have? And what do you want to give? Who do you want to give to? Giving is important. And then my last takeaway is on page 172. And so 172, he's talking about the inside influences the outside. And so he says, more than 2,500 years ago, the Proverbs writer noted that as we think in our hearts, so we become. And there's a book by James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, and basically it's the same thing. As you're thinking in your heart, so it doesn't matter what the person says they're thinking. It doesn't matter what the person wants you to think they're thinking. It doesn't matter what you believe they're thinking. You shall know them by their fruits. It's how they're thinking in their heart. So it says the ancient idea has been both echoed by other wisdom writers and confirmed by modern science. Coaches teach the importance of visualization for winning. So you have to be visualizing. So if you think about a sports coach, and when you have the athlete, you'll see them close their mind and they're visualizing, if it's basketball, taking the shot. If they're about to swim, they're visualizing themselves going through the activities. If they're playing golf, they're visualizing hitting the ball, putting the ball into the hole. And so you can do this on a professional basis. You're visualizing constantly what I talked about, the be, do, have, give. Keep picturing that, visualizing it, adding details to it. Psychologists point out the power of self image on people's actions. Doctors note the impact of positive attitude and hope on healing. What we believe really matters. What we believe, we become. We reap what we sow. What we do or neglect to do in our privacy of our daily lives or thoughts impacts who we are. If you neglect your heart, mind, and soul, it changes who you are on the outside as well as the inside. So my third observation here is today you must live like no one else so that tomorrow you can live like no one else. You have to make sacrifice today that most people are not willing to make so that tomorrow you're going to have the life that you want to live, and you will be the exception. You will live like no one else is living. So then I wrote again, change your stinking thinking. So those are the limited thoughts, the thinking that I cannot, I'm not good enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not handsome enough, pretty enough, wide enough, the right religion, whatever it is, all of those thoughts are holding you back. You want to release your unlimited potential. So you have to get rid of that stinking thinking and focus on your vision, your purpose, your mission, your desire. So start moving in that direction, having a set of goals, having direction, having character, the chemistry. You want to work with people, you want to be competent, develop those competencies, get into that mastermind group. So good chapter. I like the material. And so now what do we do next? So now you will go around. Everybody will share their 1 to 3 observations based on the material or based on what I've said. And I always remind people that if you are the last person in a group and it's your turn to talk and you're thinking, hey, they've already said what I would have said, I remind you that unless they're saying it with the exact same words, exact same tone and inflection that you would have used, then please take this opportunity to say it your way. Because you might say it in such a way, you might use a word that impacts or changes someone's personal or professional trajectory. So this is Rich Arriaga, and I hope this is helpful.